අද්විතීය 200 Mbps ස්පීඩ් එකකින් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ වේගවත්ම සහ පුළුල්තම හෝම් බ්‍රෝඩ්බෑන්ඩ් සම්බන්ධතාවය වන SLT මොබිටෙල් දේශීය ෆයිබර් බලවේගය ඔබත් අදම අත්විඳින්න.
හරිම සුදුයි.
Tonight on First at 9 this Tuesday, the 29th of August 2023. Crops cropped. Agriculture Ministry today confirms that 58,766 acres of cultivation lands have been affected due to the drought. Amended bill. Cabinet approves the redrafting of the anti-terrorism bill following incorporation of proposed amendments. Sri Lanka. Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh is expected to visit Sri Lanka this weekend.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසින් ලබාගත හැක.
Rhino Cement Roofing Sheets. හොඳම මෙලට කල් පවතින වහරයක්.
This is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and a warm welcome to today's edition of AdaDerana's English News First at 9. I'm Jonathan Benedict. Let's take a look at our top story right now. Rain has come again, as several areas of the country yesterday encountered rain showers, while some other parts of the island are yet to experience showers. To date, the Ministry of Agriculture reveals that a total of 58,766 acres of cultivation fields have reportedly been destroyed owing to the extreme weather. Addressing a briefing today, the Minister of Agriculture, Mahinda Amaravira, announced that compensation can be paid for only 6 types of crops which had been affected by the drought. Sri Lanka has been experiencing a debilitating drought for the past few months. Initially predicted to last till October with no rain for the near future, the drought has exacted a toll on existing stocks of water that has directly impacted livelihoods and food security. However, in a welcome development yesterday, rainfall was experienced in several areas of the country, including the Colombo, Galle, Mathura and Hambantota districts. The Ampara area received the highest rainfall of 40.6 millimeters in the last 24 hours. However, extreme weather conditions which affected Anuradhapura, Polonnaruwa, Ambilipitia and Batiklo continue to remain unchanged. The highest temperature of 37.4 degrees Celsius was reported from the Polonnaruwa and Trincomalee areas. With the prevailing dry weather, the water levels in reservoirs in many districts have dropped, while several water resources have reportedly dried up as well. With the lowering of the water levels in several massive reservoirs, old ruins which were submerged in those reservoirs have resurfaced. As such, a bridge that was used to travel to the Palugola village and several other ruins are now visible. The old Anuradhapura Trincomalee road, which was submerged in water, is also currently visible owing to the drying up of the Mihintale Kandara lake. However, the Nika lake in the Hikurakgoda area in the Polonnaruwa district has completely dried up. As a result, villages of the area have also encountered a drinking water crisis. Prevailing drought conditions continue to affect many areas in the country, disrupting the livelihoods of many individuals. The Nanadola waterfall in the Hambantota district, meanwhile, has reportedly dried up, which has caused a drinking water shortage in the Varapitia, Kirama and Valasamulla areas. The Alutbava lake in the Ambilipitia area is gradually drying up at present due to the intense dry weather conditions, leaving both villages and animals severely affected. The dry conditions have also led to the lack of food and water provided to the cattle in the Dambulla and Galavela areas, severely affecting animals. Concurrently, cinnamon plantations in the Galahitia area are currently at risk of being completely destroyed. Farmers in the Nochegama areas lament that 200 to 300 acres of paddy fields which are cultivated with rainwater are now destroyed. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Agriculture stated that cumulatively, a total of 58,766 acres of cultivated lands have been destroyed as a result of the prevailing drought. 58,389 acres of paddy cultivated lands and 377 acres of other cultivations have been destroyed. Speaking at a press briefing today, the Minister of Agriculture, Mahinda Amaravira, confirmed that compensation can only be paid for 6 types of crops damaged by drought, namely paddy, corn, chili, potato, onion and soybean.
නියගේ නිසා විශාල ප්‍රමාණයක් අපේ කුඹුරු විනාශ වෙලා තිබෙනවා වගේම ලෙවලු පළතුරු තේ කුරුඳු මේ සියලුම භෝගවලට මේක බලපෑමක් ඇති වෙලා තියෙනවා විතරක් නෙමෙයි පොල් වලටත් මේ බලපෑම තියෙනවා සමහර ප්‍රදේශවල පොල් ගස් පවා මරණ තත්ත්වයට ඇති වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඉතින් මේ අවුරුදු ගණනාවකට පස්සේ තමයි මෙවන් තත්ත්වයක් ඇති වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. දැන් අක්කර 60 මම හිතන්නේ 60000කට වැඩිය දැන්ටමත් විනාශ වෙලා තියෙනවා. තව ගොඩක් වැඩි වෙයි සමීක්ෂණය අවසන් වෙනකොට. හැබැයි ඒ වුණත් අපේ ගොවි ජනතාවගේ අනිත් ප්‍රදේශවල නිෂ්පාදනය ඉහළ මට්ටමක තියෙනවා. අපිට හානි ගෙවන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ භෝග වර්ග 6ක් වෙනුවෙන්. වී, බඩඉරිඟු, මිරිස්, අර්තාපල්, බීලූණු, සෝයා බොංචි. මේවට තමයි අපිට වන්දියක් ගෙවන්න පුළුවන්කම තියෙන්නේ. ඊට පරිබාහිරින් යම් උදව්වක් ආධාරයක් ගන්න පුළුවන් තැනක් තිබුණොත් අපි ඒ අයටත් ලබා දිය යුතුයි කියන මතේ මම ඉන්නවා.
Cabinet today approved a proposal by the Justice Minister Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa to redraft the new anti-terrorism bill following proposed amendments that were highlighted by the parties concerned after consideration. Although initially presented via a government gazette earlier this year, the bill received heavy backlash as it seemingly infringed on certain human rights. After today's announcement, the legal draftsman will be informed to redraft the anti-terrorism bill as a new draft bill.
The Prevention of Terrorism Act was instituted in Sri Lanka in 1979 as a temporary statutory measure during the conflict with the LTTE. In 1982, the act was made permanent by the then Sri Lankan government under President J.R. Jayawardena. Since enactment, it has been heavily criticised as a draconian piece of legislation by organisations both locally and internationally. During the past few years, the Sri Lankan government was accused of using the PTA to repress protesters, human rights activists and civil society groups. Subsequently, United Nations human rights experts called for an immediate moratorium on the use of the PTA and urged the government to substantively review and revise the legislation to comply with international human rights law. Due to massive public pressure, the government took measures to prepare a draft bill to repeal the Prevention of Terrorism Act, and it was approved by Cabinet in October of last year. The new bill was then published in the Government Gazette on the 23rd of March this year. According to Minister of Justice Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa, the bill was prepared by adhering to international laws and following precedent in anti-terrorism legislation of other countries. Prior to it being presented to the Parliament, it received heavy backlash from the Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka, trade unions and other organisations, citing that a national dialogue is essential to be executed before presenting the bill to Parliament. These parties also stated that the bill was not that much of an improvement from the previous act, as it threatened citizens' freedom of assembly and speech. Subsequently, the government has now decided to redraft the new anti-terrorism bill with amendments by incorporating views furnished by interested parties into consideration. At the cabinet meeting last evening, approval was granted to the proposal by the Justice Minister to instruct the legal draftsman to redraft the anti-terrorism bill by incorporating revisions recognized in the draft bill already sketched.
කරු ආචාර්ය විජේදාස රාජපක්ෂ අධිකරණ බන්ධනාගාර කටයුතු ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථා ප්‍රතිසංස්කරණ ඇමැතුමා ත්‍රස්ත විරෝධී පනත් කෙටුම්පත සකස් කළා 2023යි 2/27 වෙනි දින පැවති අමාත්‍ය මණ්ඩල රැස්වීමේදී ඒ සඳහා අනුමැතිය ලබා දුන්නා. නමුත් රජයේ ගැසට් පත්‍රයේ පළ කරන ලද එකී පනත් කෙටුම්පතේ සඳහන් ඇතැම් වගන්ති සම්බන්ධයෙන් උනන්දුවක් දක්වන පාර්ශ්වයන් ගණනාවක් විසින් ඉදිරිපත් කරන ලද අදහස් සැලකිල්ලටගෙන එම පනත් කෙටුම්පත සඳහා අවශ්‍ය සංශෝධන හඳුන්වා දීමට තීරණය කළා. ඒ අනුව පනත් කෙටුම්පත සංශෝධනය කළා. සංශෝධිත පනත් කෙටුම්පත නැවත සකස් කිරීම සඳහා නීති කෙටුම්පත සම්පාදකට උපදෙස් දෙන්නට එමෙතුමා ඉදිරිපත් කළ සංදේශයට අනුමැතිය ලැබුණා. මීට කලින් ඉදිරිපත් කළ අනුමත කරපු ත්‍රස්ත විරෝධී පනතට විවිධ පාර්ශ්වයන් විසින් ඉදිරිපත් කරපු සංශෝධන ඇතුළත් කළා. නව පනත් කෙටුම්පතක් විදියට එය සකස් කරන්නට අවසර ඉල්ලා සිටියේ. ඒ සඳහා අවසර ලබා දුන්නා.
Sri Lanka is poised to host the 23rd Ministerial Council meeting of the Indian Ocean Rim Association in October of this year. Cabinet spokesman Bandula Gunawardena said that Sri Lanka is expected to chair the organisation for the term 2023 to 2025 under the Strength of Regional Foundation and Empowering the Indian Ocean Identity theme. Meanwhile, the Cabinet of Ministers has given approval to a proposal by the President in his capacity as the Finance Minister to publish the bill that was prepared to amend the Value Added Tax or VAT Tax Act in the Government Gazette and consequently submitted to Parliament for approval. Here are some more updates from the Cabinet meeting held yesterday.
The 25th meeting of the Senior Officials Committee of the Indian Ocean Rim Association is scheduled to be held on the 9th and 10th of October, with the 23rd Ministerial Council meeting scheduled to be held on the 11th of October in Colombo. In this Ministerial Council meeting, Sri Lanka will take over the chairmanship of the organisation for the period 2023 to 2025, and strengthening the regional foundation, empowering the Indian Ocean identity will be the theme for this period. Cabinet approved the proposal presented by the President to publish the bill prepared by the legal draftsman to amend the Value Added Tax Act after it received clearance from the Attorney General in the Government Gazette and to submit consequently to Parliament for approval. The Cabinet of Ministers approved a proposal by the Minister of Power and Energy to enter into a Memorandum of Understanding between the Ceylon Electricity Board and Japan Electricity Information Center to implement a technical cooperation program for the year 2023 and engage in multiple knowledge transfer programs based on cooperation built. The clearance of the Attorney General has been issued for the draft bill formulated by the legal draftsman for the bill of the establishment of the Office for National Harmony and Reconciliation. The Cabinet of Ministers approved the proposal furnished by the Minister of Justice, Vijayadasa Rajapaksa, to publish the said draft bill in the Government Gazette notification and subsequently forwarded to the Parliament for its concurrence. Cabinet has granted approval to a proposal by the Minister of Transportation, Bandula Gunawardena, to increase the number of buses procured under a proposed private partnership project that was given approval in February of this year to increase the number of electric buses from 50 to 200.
විවිධ ක්ෂේත්‍රයේ විද්‍යුතුන් සමග සාකච්ඡා කරලා ශක්්‍යතා අධ්‍යයනයක් කරලා ශ්‍රී ලංකා ගමනාගමන මණ්ඩලය සමග හවුල් ව්‍යාපාරයක් වශයෙන් ජාත්‍යන්තර සමාගම් වලට ඉදිරිපත් වෙන්න කියලා බස්නාහිර පළාතේ නියම ව්‍යාපෘතියක් ලෙස විදුලි බස් රථ ධාවනය කරවන්න. එහිදී මෙම පත්‍රිකාව සලකලා බලලා පසුගිය කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලය බස් රථ 50කට පමණක් අභිප්‍රාය කැඳවන්නේ කියලා අපිට නියම කරා. එහිදී ඒ හා සම්බන්ධිත විවිධ විද්‍යුතුන් පැහැදිලි කළ බස් රථ සංඛ්‍යාව අඩු වෙන විට charging points සඳහා දරන විශාල ස්ථාවර පිරිවැය කුඩා බස් රථ සංඛ්‍යාවක් අතර බෙදුනොත් ඒ තුලින් ඒ ආයෝජකයාට ආයෝජනය ආවරණය කරගන්නට ඉතා විශාල කාලයක් ගත වෙනවා. ඒ නිසා ඒ charging points ඒ ප්‍රදේශයේ පුරා ඇති කරන්න දරන ස්ථාවර වියදම අඩු කරගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ බස් රථ 200ක් 500ක් වැනි ප්‍රමාණයක් කළොත් කියන එක පිළිබඳ ඉදිරිපත් කරපු කරුණු පිළිබඳ මම නැවත කැබිනට් පත්‍රිකාවක් ඉදිරිපත් කළා. ඒ අනුව අතිගරු ජනාධිපතිතුමත් කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයත් මේ දැනට කැදවලා තිබෙන අභිප්‍රාය පළ කිරීම බස් රථ 50 වෙනුවට 200 දක්වා දික් කරන්නට අනුමැතිය ලබා දුන්නා. මේ රටේ බස් දුවන්න අවසරය තියෙන මාර්ගවල ශ්‍රී ලංකා ගමනාගමන මණ්ඩලයට පුද්ගලික බස් හිමියන්ට අපි එතකොට විදේශ ආයෝජකයාට කියන්නේ ඔහු විසින් පොදු ප්‍රවාහනයේ යටතේ බස් රථ 200ක් ගෙනල්ලා ඒ බස් රථ බැටරි නැවත තිබුණ තත්වයට පත් කරන්න charging points ලංකාව පුරාම හදලා ඒ සඳහා වියදම් දරලා ඒ කරන ආයෝජනය ආවරණය කරගන්න ඒ බස් රථ ටික අපි ලංගමේ ලබාගෙන මේ බස්නාහිර පළාත තුල දුවනවා. ඒ කාලය තුල ඒ ලබන ආදායමෙන් අපි ඒ ගෙවල ඉවර වෙච්චාම ඒ බස් රථ ටික නිශ්චිත කාලයකින් පස්සේ ලංකා ගමන මණ්ඩලයට පවර්ලා දීලා ඒ අය ආයෝජනයෙන් ඉවත් වෙනවා.
India's Union Defence Minister Rajnath Singh is scheduled to arrive in Sri Lanka on a 2-day visit this coming weekend. The Defence Minister is expected to visit Trincomalee, where India is involved in a joint investment for the development of the oil tank farm under an agreement signed in January of 2022. The visit comes at a time when the Sri Lankan Foreign Ministry is considering a fresh request from China to allow the visit of a research ship. The research vessel Xi'an 6 is expected to arrive in October of this year. This request comes following the docking of a Chinese warship at the Colombo port from the 10th of August to the 12th of August earlier this month, exactly a year after the visit of a Chinese vessel Yuan Wang 5, which resulted in a major diplomatic showdown between New Delhi and Colombo. Permanent Secretary for the Foreign Affairs of Thailand, Sarun Shiranswan, commenting on Sri Lanka's recovery since last year, said that Thailand will continue to support Sri Lanka's efforts and provide technical assistance on various programs under a 2-year implementation plan. During the 5th round of Sri Lanka-Thailand bilateral political consultations, the Sri Lankan delegation led by Foreign Secretary Aruni Vijayawardena and the Thai delegation headed by the Thai Permanent Foreign Minister reviewed ongoing developments in the regional and multilateral contexts, including ASEAN, BIMSTEC, IORA and the United Nations.
The 5th round of Sri Lanka-Thailand bilateral political consultations was held at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Colombo yesterday. The Sri Lankan delegation was led by Foreign Secretary Aruni Vijayawardena, while the Thai delegation was headed by Permanent Secretary for Foreign Affairs of Thailand, Sarun Shiranswan. During the discussion, a wide range of areas of mutual collaboration in the fields of trade and investment, defence, culture, fisheries and tourism were reviewed for further progress. The Sri Lankan Foreign Secretary informed the Thai delegation that Sri Lanka is moving forward with the stabilisation of its economy, adding that enhanced bilateral relations with Thailand as well as the broader ASEAN region is top priority. Sri Lanka has prioritised the conclusion of the Thailand-Sri Lanka Free Trade Agreement. In addition, the Foreign Ministry website stated that Sri Lanka intends to join the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. As one of the 15 founding members of the RCEP, Foreign Secretary Vijayawardena requested Thai support for Sri Lanka's application. She also congratulated Thailand on the progress made in BIMSTEC under its current chairmanship. During the meeting, the Thai Permanent Secretary for Foreign Affairs updated Sri Lanka on the latest developments in Thailand, including the appointment of Thailand's new Prime Minister. The Thai Permanent Secretary welcomed Sri Lanka's recovery since last year and informed that Thai technical assistance on various programs under the 2-year implementation plan would continue to support Sri Lanka's efforts. The two sides also reviewed ongoing developments in the regional and multilateral contexts, including ASEAN, BIMSTEC, IRA, and the United Nations. Parallel to the bilateral political consultations, a negotiation and business matching session was conducted between the leading private sector companies of the two countries in the morning at the Siam Nivasa. The Permanent Secretary for Foreign Affairs of Thailand proceeded to call on Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena and Foreign Minister Ali Sabri in the afternoon.
Since the commencement of the Candia Celebrity Festival, a total of 1.2 million local and foreign tourists have arrived to witness it as of last night, per reports. Meanwhile, the 4th Randoli procession of the annual Candia Celebrity is currently underway.
The 4th Randoli procession of the annual Candia Celebrity Festival is currently underway on the streets of Kandy. Despite heavy rains in the area, many tourists were present to experience the cultural showpiece of the annual Candia Celebrity Festival. According to the Senior Superintendent of Police in charge of Kandy, Shamil Krishantha Ratnayaka, a total of 1.2 million local and foreign tourists had visited the Perhara Festival since its commencement up until yesterday. The 4th Randoli procession of the Candia Celebrity Festival was adorned with various cultural commemorations, celebrations and practices, with the up-country and low-country dances being a highlight of the night. The final Randoli procession of the Candia Celebrity Festival is scheduled to take place tomorrow. Further, the traditional water cutting ceremony will take place at the Gatame Diya Kapanathota on Thursday.
More news on the other side of this short break. Stay tuned.
ගොඩමඩ පෙරලි කරන බලපුළුවන් කාරයා මහින්ද්‍රා යුවෝ ටීමෝ වෙතින්. වැඩම ගොඩයි ගොඩම තමයි. ස්වරාජ් ට්‍රැක්ටර් ටීමෝ වෙතින්.
Welcome back. Following a protest launched by civil organizations and several trade unions against potential impact to the Employee Provident Fund due to the domestic debt optimization program yesterday, the central bank agreed to a meeting between the representatives of those who engaged in demonstrations to hold discussions on matters pertaining to the domestic debt optimization as well as the EPF. However, the said representatives informed the central bank of their inability to attend the meeting, subsequently foregoing an opportunity to get matters related to the domestic debt optimization and the EPF clarified.
A protest organized by civil organizations and several trade unions against the potential impact to EPF due to the domestic debt optimization program convened near the Colombo Fort railway station yesterday. A group of people who claimed to be representatives of the members of the Employees Provident Fund had requested for a meeting with the officials of the central bank. The request had been made in order to hold discussions on matters pertaining to domestic debt optimization as well as the EPF. As a result, the central bank has subsequently issued a clarification pertaining to the incident. In response to the request made, CBSL Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe had informed the group of representatives that a meeting had been scheduled to discuss these issues. The meeting was scheduled to be held at the CBSL premises at 2:30 p.m. during the course of yesterday itself. However, according to the central bank, the group of representatives has informed the CBSL of their inability to take part in the meeting. The central bank concluded that an opportunity was missed to get the representatives' concerns regarding domestic debt optimization clarified. The manner in which member contributions will be guaranteed through the implementation of the domestic debt optimization and how an investment return at a minimum as supplemented in the past would be assured could have been clarified.
State Secretary for Culture and Media of the Netherlands, Gunay Oesloe, says that the Netherlands Advisory Committee on the Return of Cultural Objects from Colonial Context will be setting up a cooperation program together with the Museum of Sri Lanka in a bid to share knowledge and strengthen cooperation. She made these comments while addressing an event held at the National Archives Department in Colombo today. Meanwhile, Cabinet approved the signing of a legal document of consent between both parties for re-accepting the artifacts and an agreement to retain them in museums of Netherlands until they are delivered to Sri Lanka later this year.
An event-themed restitution of artifacts, closing a chapter or opening a new one, organised by the National Archives in collaboration with the Netherlands Embassy in Colombo, was held this evening with the participation of State Secretary for Culture and Media of the Netherlands, Gunnar Ouslu, and the Sri Lankan State Minister of Foreign Affairs, Tharaka Balasuriya.
This is a moment to look forward, on the journey of closer cooperation in areas like Sri Lanka by the Rijksmuseum and our national cultural heritage pages. Together with other museums in Sri Lanka, they will set up a cooperation program so that we can exchange knowledge and experience about what do we know about the objects, what is the best way to take care of it, and how do we tell stories about these objects. In the near future, we'll also go to bring experts from Sri Lanka to the Netherlands, where they can see our collections and further discuss and deepen our collaboration. These 6 wonderful objects are the first to be returned to where they belong. This doesn't end there by all. Instead, together we are writing new and hopeful new chapters. I'm looking forward to working with Sri Lanka and finding other items that do not belong in Dutch collections but in your country and bring these pieces home again.
This initiative of Netherlands is quintessential of commitment of rectifying the profound impact of colonialism. Colonialism has had on nations, cultures and societies around the world. It's heartening to see that the determination to move forward fostering the future of unity, understanding and collaboration.
Early last month, the government of Netherlands stated that they will be returning 478 objects of cultural significance that were looted during the colonial era from Indonesia and Sri Lanka. The decision was made by the Netherlands government after considering requests from Sri Lanka and Indonesia. As a result, they will be handing 472 objects to Indonesia. To Sri Lanka, the Dutch government will be returning 6 objects, which include Leeuwkees cannon, a gold kastane, a ceremonial sword, a Sinhalese knife, a silver kastane, and 2 guns.
Welcome back. The Sri Lankan government, meanwhile, has assured an uninterrupted supply of liquefied petroleum gas in the country from January of next year. During a cabinet meeting on Monday, the government approved the purchase of 50% of the total supply of the existing contract from the current supplier of Litrogas Lanka as a reorder for an uninterrupted supply of gas after the 21st of December 2023 until the completion of the company's restructuring process. The Government Information Department further added that the contract for the supply of 280,000 metric tons of LP gas to Litrogas Lanka will expire on the 31st of December this year. The company has subsequently called for bids for the supply of LP gas for the period 2024 to 2025. However, as the restructuring process of the company is already underway, entering into new agreements may adversely affect the restructuring process. In stocks news, the Colombo bourse closed marginally low today, dragged down by losses in consumer discretionary stocks. The Colombo Stock Exchange All-Share Price Index closed down 0.04% to close at 11,165.59 points, falling for 4 straight sessions. John Keel's Holdings and Hunas Falls Hotels were the top losers on the index, down 0.69% and 4.93% respectively. Trading volume on the all-share price index fell to 47.1 million shares from 60.2 million shares in the previous session. Meanwhile, the S&P SL20 dropped by 0.08% to end at 3,150.26 points. Market turnover fell to 1.65 billion rupees from 2.26 billion rupees in the previous session. The food, beverage and tobacco sector were the top contributors to market turnover, while the consumer services sector was the second highest contributor. Foreign investors were net sellers, offloading stocks worth 80.9 million rupees, while domestic investors were net buyers, purchasing shares worth 1.61 billion rupees. A quick look at how the rupee traded against other major currencies right now. that's all the news I have for you this evening. Stay tuned for Hyde Park at 24 with Indivari Amawata up next. For now, good night and have a blessed Wednesday ahead.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit AdaDerana.lk.